Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Happy time of day.
So I had just found out recently that about an hour ago, John can't make it for personal reasons. I've tried to update create the entry for today in the Slack channel. If you can add your names and add anything to the agenda that you would like discussed, that'd be helpful. And I'm not sure if Jacques is going to be able to be with us either. Yep, there he is.
G'day. Can you give me just a minute? My last meeting ran up to exactly 10 o'clock, so I need a second.
No worries. I've tried to update the agenda.
Oh, beauty. Thank you. I'll be right back.
You got the notice from Jacques? I mean, from John?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I put into the chat yesterday the idea of giving a brief update on or just raising awareness of the source code management guide stuff on today's call as well. So I don't know if you have time for that on the agenda, but I added it to your bullet list.
Okay. I'm guessing we're going to have time today. Yeah.
Okay, give it a few more seconds and then we'll kick off. I'm sure folks have seen the link, but if not, I will drop it in chat just one more time, because why not? The links are free. He says in a very 1990s kind of way. Okay, my mouse scroll. There it goes. It's working. So usually we start with a question of who will be scribing. I am luckily excluded from that task as I will be chat. Exactly. Any volunteers? One at a time, please. Dan or Andrew, could I nominate one of you? You've done a great job in the past.
I would normally, I will try. I will try. I'm just not. I'm not running at 100% capacity today. I'm just like suffering from a cold.
Oh,
but I will give it a try.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
No worries.
So the next thing we usually do is to say hello to new friends, people who might have not visited before or who haven't visited for a long time and would like to reintroduce themselves. Here's your chance.
Hi, this is Nitin Bhargav, and I'm from ADP. And Jonathan from Citibank actually introduced me to this group and suggested that I should join. And I manage the product security third party at ADP.
That's really cool. It's great to see new faces. Speaking of which, any other new faces that I haven't caught yet? No? Okay. That leads us now to the next part of the agenda, which is membership. And I think, Andrew, this would be you.
Yeah, so Nitin, welcome aboard. Wonderful to have you. Thank you. It's always good to have new members every session. I think that's great. So thank you. We also had from the Linux Foundation OpenSSF Day up in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago. We had Morgan Stanley commit. I don't believe they're on here. They've been in the past, but he's committed to have someone here moving forward. Was not able to connect with Boeing. They had expressed an interest. I still think they're trying to find the right person to participate. I'll continue to work on that. Any other from the members here, any other folks that you've talked to that have expressed an interest? Okay. All right. Well, it's going to be a collective effort to make sure we continue to grow this this working group. So please all just keep thinking about who you can reach out to. Jonathan and I, Jacques, are happy to reach out to anybody that may come up. But this is a collective effort to continue to drive the membership here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Definitely keen to broaden the base. That's why it's so great to see you today, Nitin. Okay, so we have here LF North America Summit debrief. I'm not sure who put this in or would like to take it. Andrew, go ahead.
I did. So I know a number of us were up there. There were a couple of panels where I participated and where we talked about the OpenSSF. We talked about the end user working group and its mission. The one that Jacques and I and Jean presented to the OpenSSF, the OpenSSF attendees. I think it was a bit of a self-selecting group, and it pointed out to us the need to really grow this membership, because I think in a room of 50 people, there were 3 end users. Mm-hmm. Is that about right, Grob? Yeah. So that was definitely a reminder that we need more end users to participate in OpenSSF in general. Then I had a chance to participate on a separate panel with IBM and Amazon and JP Morgan, and it was interesting. It was a general topic around software supply chain security, and this was in the broader. So for most of you are aware, the event in Vancouver was hosted by the LF, and they had, I don't know what, 12 or 13 of the foundations represented there. And so this talk was in the broader stream, and we had decent participation. And it was also pointed out a widely varying degree of knowledge on the topic. So we had some folks who clearly understood, were actively contributing and participating to a variety of different efforts. And then we had some that, put it bluntly, weren't quite sure what software supply chain security was. So again, it just reminded us that we need to continue to raise awareness. We need to continue to put out material to reach out to an audience, again, with widely varying degrees of expertise. We can't just assume that people have the same level of knowledge of many of the folks on this audience. Mm-hmm. Overall, I'd say it was pretty well attended. All the groups were all the sessions that I was there for were pretty well attended. I don't know if others would like to share. Crow, but definitely like to get your feedback. You were all over the place up there, I saw.
Yeah, I thought all in all, it was a good set of micro conferences and conferences. I think the OpenSSF Day started off very strong. We lost some folks in the afternoon. I don't know if that was just kind of competing content, or if people didn't want to see about the mobilization plan. I can't tell. But a lot of really good talks, and I absolutely agree, Andrew. We need to the panel that you and Jacques and Jonathan put together really highlighted the need to get broader feedback from the end user constituency, and I think there's just a lot of opportunity. And there's a group of us working on threat modeling the software supply chain, with Henrik's kind of helping lead that, and an idea that potentially could lead into luring more participation is we might set up a survey and then go out to our respective networks and reach out to end user enterprises to get their petition them to answer the survey questions. But hopefully that'll lure them in to become full-time participants.
And I think perhaps for me, one of the most important takeaways is Jonathan hosted a kind of an ad hoc birds of a feather session, which I was actually not able to attend, but I guess there were a few folks there. And one of the outcomes of that we had talked about was pitching the OpenSSF to get some project management support and more marketing support. And that was wholeheartedly supported. And Krob, I believe the plan is that we're going to get together, you and I and Jacques, and put together a little proposal, run it by the committee here, and then submit that to the broader OpenSSF leadership. And I think we have a good chance of getting some project management support, which would really go a long way for us in helping build collateral and get some more marketing. And I think that's what's really needed for all of us to begin to reach out to our networks. Yeah.
And I'll put a plug in. They're doing the OSS EU will be in Spain in September. And they'll be doing an OpenSSF day there. They just opened up a call for papers for Open Source Summit Asia. So that call for papers is open now. And depending on the interest, we might be able to do another OpenSSF day. And I would encourage this group to figure out if anyone could just show up there and see if we can arrange some birds of feather stuff to lure in more end user participation to try to get that very vital feedback.
Yeah. I see your hands up, Dan. Are you?
I just wanted to put my 2 cents in that I totally agree. I wasn't at the event, but like it jibes with my feeling that we really need to work on getting the word out, raising the awareness of these terms. Software supply chain security is very, very well known in our circles, but like when I talk to web developers, they're like I'm a Martian. One thing, is there actually, I know that there's a concise guide, there are concise guides, but is there actually like a guide or a single document somewhere that's like, this is the definition of software supply chain security according to the OpenSSF? Because I know there are like blog posts and there's concise guides, and then there's like more detailed learning material, but maybe Krob can answer. Is there something that we can point to?
A very handsome gentleman with an amazing haircut recently proposed that we create a foundation-wide dictionary that we could consolidate all these terms from across the working groups. And that person would love some help in trying to help push that notion and get that created. So it's a cross-foundational resource for both dictionary lexicon type things, personas, and also be a resource where we could have an introductory deck on explaining what each of the working groups do, just some resource for the whole foundation, that one place people could go to get this stuff. So I agree. Patch is welcome.
I feel like I should know who you're referencing, Krob, but I think you're going to need to explain that one.
Me. Myself and a couple others have been circulating this idea for a while, and it's just I need some.
Yeah, I got it.
I only have so many hours in the day I can donate for free software, and I am 3,000% oversubscribed. So any additional help would help us get that over the finish line and make that
Is
resource
where,
available.
where is that? Do you have a link that you could share?
I'll track it down. I'll need to do an issue in the TAC repo to.
So Corbin, we got that document that we started, and I still have the link
do?
open right on my I still have it open as one of my links on my, yeah, I do. Although I'm not on my computer right now, what I can do is when I get there, I could post a link in the Slack. But
Great.
what Corbin and I started with, we have like 5 or 6 different areas, and I wrote some in each one of them for the objective, the mission, vision, scope, one-liners that can be built out. Krob and I are both strapped for time, so whenever we can, we jump back into it and do something. But we really would like to get this over the finish line. We're strapped. We're really strapped for time. But the idea is to build a working group that's a centralized that can have tentacles out to the other working groups, so that we can do things like, one sheet of music with personas, one sheet of music with taxonomy, one sheet of music with DE&I, one sheet of music that spreads out across and then can act as a liaison across the LF even on behalf of the OpenSSF to do some of these things as well, right? That's our ultimate vision, I guess, for that particular working group. But we have a document that we started months ago that, things come up and we can't, we need help. So when I get back to my computer, I'll post a link because I still have it open because I get back to it when I can. And then so who Krob was referring to, it wasn't just him, it was me. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say he was jabbing, but I am on the call. So
We both got the same great haircut, so.
hey, Jack, I still have a little bit on top of mine, man. Come on, you know what I mean? I'm not shy. I use hymns and every day because I want my locks to look like yours one day.
Oh, well, my locks are not what they used to be, but let's stop talking about the benefits of wisdom. Kasia, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I thought Dan was asking about more of not as a, like the glossary type of thing, but more on the guidance or the main requirements or controls. I mean, I come from a security background, so I talk in terms of controls. The controls that need to be in place in our supply chain, to say that our supply chain, we meet supply chain requirements, right? So I thought that's what Dan was referring to. So do we have any guidance on, like, these are the controls we recommend in SCM, or these are in the bill pipelines or in production, or so do we have anything that runs through those type of controls, so that like end users like us, we could like take it and say, okay, do we meet those requirements in our environment?
So why don't you respond, Dan, and then I can blast some more foundation information about what's available.
Oh, I was just going to say yes. I mean, I think that the thing that I'm thinking about is something that speaks in the language that software developers would understand, but not necessarily people that are in the security field, right? To explain to them in simple terms what it is we're talking about when we talk about software supply chain security. And, that could then be a link off to things like, what is an SBOM? What is a this? What is a that, right? And I think that like the thing that was going through my head when you were talking about glossary is we got to make sure that when we're building that, we build it from that mindset perspective of it's not for us, actually, it's for it's for the wider community. Yeah.
Right. Agreed. And then specifically to Gaja's statement, there is no centralized place that provides that kind of mapping to the NIST cybersecurity framework or anything like that. But we do have things like SALSA and GUAC and S2C2F. S2C2F is probably your best example of mapping the idea of information security controls to different compliance and legislative guidelines and frameworks. But there is no centralized resource today. It's kind of spread out across a couple different projects and working groups.
That said, I did see someone pop up in the Salsa channel on Slack, Laurie Williams, who says she or he has a draft of framework. There's a union of the 72 tasks from SSDF, Salsa, S2, C2F, and some sort of mapping. I haven't looked at it. I'll drop a link to Slack in the chat here.
Yeah.
That's in the Salsa channel. So
Yeah. So Laura went through that on during our SCI working group meeting, where she as a part of a project while she's on sabbatical took the different frameworks and went and put together a mapping of them and brought out 72 controls that are aligned across each framework to address governance. And I try to go from top to bottom here, but there's governance, there's 4 of them. The last one is deployment. Goodness gracious, I can't remember the other 2. But it was actually a really comprehensive. There were a couple of gaps, so I think it's something that can be further developed. I actually like what I saw for the most part. But she did take everything, like, not just the outside frameworks, but S2, C2F, and Salsa to do this as well. I think she missed a couple of points that Salsa provides. But it was a really comprehensive. I don't think it's in a state where it's something that's usable right now. I think it's something that can be further developed, but it would be something that everyone can take a look at and opine on.
Thanks, Jay. That's helpful. So just keeping an eye on movement and color. How do we feel about the summit debrief? Do we think we've sort of tapped it out?
It feels like it.
Yep, cool. So the next item is from Jeff. It's for the OSC manifesto comments. Jeff.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks ago at the summit, I know Brian and Jonathan were there. I don't know who else. So I think they had some conversation because we'd pitched the manifesto a couple times, I think, before in the past at least 2 months. And so we pushed it to GitHub, sort of version 0. I think we've got some good comments. I replied to those today. I'd like to see what we need to get that to like a V1, just so we can get it out there. And then once we can do that, hopefully relatively quickly, I have a blog post that we can, put to the OpenSSF blog to sort of publish, give it a little, get some more notice. But open to comments still if anyone has any questions, what it is. The link's there in the doc as well.
I know this is bike shedding, but I feel like there was a discussion about the word manifesto at some point. And whether there was a word, because it means different things in different places, unfortunately. But that could be an aside. So is the call to action here for more comments?
Yeah, I think maybe we give another week because there haven't been a lot since the last 2 weeks. And if there's no more comments in a week, we can think about the wording. I know there were comments about that. I'm on the side of not letting people take words,
Sure.
but I totally understand. Yeah. But then if we could do that in the next week, then maybe the week following, we could sort of look into getting the blog post published and finalizing this. And I saw Joshua, you had some comments. I think I've replied to all of them. I think, yeah, including your edits, and all of them looked good, but I had comments to all of them.
So what I might suggest then is that our next meeting on the normal schedule would be 2 weeks from now. We could take a vote on it then, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Could I suggest that you send an email to the mailing list to let people know that that's happening?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do that for a vote in 2 weeks. Just gives people a chance to make a last pass and know that it's coming.
Yeah, sounds great. I won't be here because I'll actually be out of town, but Brian Fox or someone else from SoundType can probably take my place right now, but I'll send the email and can do all of that. And I can send out the draft for the potential blog as well. Do you know on the blog side who, and this may be more, I see Rob, you might have an idea on this, next steps for that, where we need to get that going.
Usually I've worked with Jennifer Bly.
Okay.
And oops, hi Mia, bye Mia. Yes, so I've usually talked to Jennifer Bly about it, but I think operations at openssf.org will get you everything you need as like the catch-all.
Okay.
Dan.
Is the blog post something that you're going to be looking for, or is anything related? Sometimes in a manifesto you have signatories to the manifesto. Are we looking for signatories, or is it kind of implied that it has the imperature of this group and the members of this group by simply by this group publishing it?
Yeah, I think the intent, but again, I wasn't at the meeting at the summit, but I think that was the intent of bringing this in. I think some people, ran into how they would be a signatory, with representation of their company and that causing issues. So that I think that was one of the ideas, was to bring it into the end user group. Right. And that sort of be the way to do it versus, someone going, wait, you signed this. What did you just legally abide yourself to?
Yeah.
And then the blog itself, I think, is just more to sort of set the description and understanding of it. And again, I can show you all that, what we have, get feedback.
Got it. Thanks.
Cool. All right. So the next item on the agenda is from Dan. It's an update on the SCM guide from best practices.
So this is really brief. I just wanted to raise awareness of this doc that we've been working on in the best practices group, and I can share screen for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can actually do this. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Right. So this is some work that we've started in the best practices working group. Some CROB is aware of it, and some other people who are in the best practices working group are aware of it. And it's basically starting with the content that Legitify have provided. So there's a lot of data. There's a lot of individual best practice statements about how to configure your source code management platform, really focusing in on GitHub and GitLab in particular. But the idea here is to fold that into some work that some editorial work that Christine from F5 has been really pushing and very active on, and so that we end up with something that is a document that can then also serve as a home for these pages that are the each individual best practice statement that comes out of the Legitify database, right? So the idea is that we have, and that this therefore will sit alongside of things like the concise guides, for instance, as a OpenSSF deliverable. And the idea is that you would come to this document and you're going to be able to read a little bit about our thinking around securing your source code repository, and then you come down to individual best practice statements here, and each one of them either has a GitHub logo or a GitLab logo, or in some cases both, when it applies to both GitHub and GitLab. And then so if I go down to indicative one, I always like to pick two-factor authentication. It doesn't, I can't find it right now. Right, two-factor authentication. Okay, so then I can click on the logo for GitHub, and I can
Oh, mate, the joys of live demos.
The demos, yes, exactly. All right, here we go. All right, we'll just click on the first one. I shouldn't have gotten fancy. All right, and then that links through to a singleton page that shows like the description, how severe we think it is, the description, the threat example, and remediation steps. And that's why you kind of need this to be you need this to be fluid, because sometimes the remediation steps are going to change if the UI on that particular platform changes. So the idea here that we are kind of like converging on is that these individual pages, which are the markdown files that are generated out of the Legitify data, will continue to be auto-generated, but they will be linked to from these index pages, which were originally auto-generated, but will continue to be edited and with additional content edited in to give context and to make the document more readable. And yeah, basically that's, I'm trying to get, I mean, part of the point of presenting it here is to get feedback, really, and to see, because the audience, part of the audience that is intended here are you know, people working in OSPOs, right? So we want to make sure that this is actually useful for those groups. So yeah, that's, I'm happy to take questions. That's basically all I wanted to do.
I've
Yeah.
put my hand up, but I will wait for anyone else who wants to go first.
I forgot where the button for the raise hand there is. But I was just commenting, first of all, the OSPO thing. I just came out of the OSPO Europe thingamajig. That is sometimes I don't know, every week or something like that. I can add this to the agenda for the OSPO, at least OSPO Europe. So you know, can get some other points of view there. And also it's just so right now it's GitHub and GitLab. What if people want to add other stuff? Because I wanted to be part of this, but my time kind of just went out of the window all of a sudden. So you know, it is what it is. But for instance, there's also you know stuff involved with like Azure DevOps repositories and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, is that within scope right now, or
yeah, I mean, I think this is intended to be a living document, right? And the idea is that the idea of having it be GitHub and GitLab is to build it in such a way that that we're starting with two, so that always makes it easier to add another one. And also we're going to end up with a bunch of things that are more like down at the bottom of the document, there's some operational stuff that doesn't really have Legitify generated pages. So I think as we continue working on this, we will be building out from the core information that comes out of the Legitify database and adding more editorial that comes from OpenSSF, right? And that could include, as you say, you know, other platforms, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the intention was always to make this a multi-use document. The team that assembled has a lot of deep expertise in GitHub and GitLab, but we always wanted to make it open enough that we would have other source code management systems and forges, so to speak, in there. It's just we don't currently have folks that have the background or time to do that. So again, patches are always welcome, Robert. We would love you to add if you had other areas you wanted to contribute to. That'd be awesome.
time is something I don't really have, but at the same time, like would it be an idea to add an issue about adding the Azure DevOps repository to this particular?
That would be great, and we can take that up next week when we have the special, because we have a special bi-weekly call now on Thursdays.
Right.
And we'll take that up in that special bi-weekly call.
All right. I'll see if I can find that time so I can try and join.
It's
I had
OpenSSF thing. Yeah.
I had sort of two questions. The first question was around the relationship to other OpenSSF sort of work. It feels like there might be overlap or intersection with one of or both SALSA, which we know at the moment doesn't have a source track anymore, but did previously. And also possibly with Scorecard, which includes a lot of these sort of controls as things that they recommend. And I'm sort of curious about what the
On the
relationship is.
scorecard thing, I can say that we've already had a couple of calls where we've had scorecards folks talking with, we've had cross communication. And the idea there is because Scorecard wants to build out Scorecard so that it provides more information on remediation steps when there is a source where in any case, but specifically when there are SCM configuration issues that are identified by Scorecard, they want to be able to provide, and here's what you need to do to fix it. Well, what we've talked about is now that we have these singleton pages that are going to be at a stable URL, and I don't think the GitHub URL should be the final URL for these, by the way. I think it should be at an openssf.org URL, published through GitHub page type mechanism or something like that. But once we have these singleton pages at a stable URL, then Scorecard could send you to that URL, basically, like here's the remediation steps that you need, and then if then it's up to us, or it's up to the best practice working group to make sure that information is up to date. So that seems like it could be a good way to work. So we've had those discussions already. I haven't had any discussions with Salsa, but I'm happy to chat with them. Although I always just think about eating salsa when I hear salsa, so never mind.
It's a delicious problem to have.
Yes, that's true.
Gaja, I think you were next.
I'll pass it on to the OSPO internally in Morgan Stanley, but some of the members of our OSPO are also part of FinOS, different working groups in FinOS, and the working groups that deal with supply chain that talk about supply chain security and a few other relevant topics. Should we pass it on to them too, or is there a restriction on how far we can take it?
No, it'd be great. That would be great. And the way that we're managing this now is through issues. So if there are issues, if they're welcome to raise an issue, or they're welcome to raise it to me, or if you want to raise it to me on Slack, I'm responsive there, and we can work it that way. I'm happy to be the funnel for that feedback.
Joshua.
I just wanted to raise my hand as a Salsa contributor. So if you want to have a discussion on how to engage with Salsa, I can connect with you on Slack or something.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Is there a next action for folks?
Really, just feedback. Let me know if you have any feedback, if you see things that are missing, and join our calls if you're interested in participating in the work.
Cool. Next is Chrome end user working group report out to the TAC on May 30th.
Yeah, I mentioned this to Jonathan. This working group gets the opportunity to come before the TAC next Tuesday, and you have 10 minutes to share all the awesome things that you're working on. If you need assistance with anything, there is an amazing Google slide template that I shared with Jonathan, and we would love to, the broader foundation would love to hear what this working group is working on, and especially where you all want feedback, like on the manifesto and things like that. It'd be good to highlight those types of things. So I told Jonathan, I don't know if he remembered, he's a busy fella, but Jacques, I'm glad to share the template with you if the two of you like to collaborate.
Yes, I have actually. I was joking earlier about being busier now that I'm unemployed. I kind of am, but I do have some time to smash in some
Great.
smashing
Yeah,
some stuff.
I'm presenting on the best working group, same meeting. So I'll just share what I'm working on. You can just copy it and then find and replace best
Sounds
with
good.
end user.
Yep, even replace it with even better.
Even better.
Cool. Thanks for that reminder. Very helpful. I have once or twice been the person giving a presentation ad hoc, which is interesting. Okay. Also, we have Sterling Toolchain SIG kicking off soon. I assume this is you, Greg.
Yeah, that's me. So I received a large volume of feedback that the governing board had this idea called the Sterling Toolchain back in the late fall. And there has not been a ton of work on it. So we're starting our initiative, assembling the troops, whatnot, people that are interested in participating. And Jonathan and several of the folks in this group were very adamant, since end users are the people that have to end up using open source and get the opportunity to benefit from the tools, but also you need to be able to have secure frameworks like Salsa or tooling like Scorecard. I thought it would be a great idea to invite this group, anyone that's interested in providing feedback on as we shape this idea. I think we're on to a security tool belt. Everyone universally agreed the title is terrible, but I think we might be security tool belt, but we're going to start meeting. There is an issue on the TAC repo I would invite you to comment on if you have feedback now. And then there is a doodle poll if you want to participate with the group and actually help architect the future in real time. We're going to meet weekly, and we're going to kick those calls off probably next week. So end users are welcome.
Cool. Hopefully that goes smoothly. I'm glad to hear that there's a possible shift in the local distribution of bike sheds. Just words have power, as they say. Okay, were there any sort of questions or comments on that people had? I mean, we've got 20 minutes. We could talk about the name. No, I'm joking. Please don't. Okay. Well, that sort of gets us through to the end of the traditional sort of list of things on the agenda. Typically, what we like to do is in any other business section to allow for impromptu discussions. Was there anything else that folks would like to discuss? Jay.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up S2C2F is picking up steam now that we're done, or for the time being, and we're letting Salsa 1.0 breathe.
Mhm.
The SIG meetings meet every couple of weeks on Wednesday at Tuesday at 12. Come on in. The water's warm. We're getting a lot of great feedback now. A lot of people are actually going through up, down, left, right, and center of the spec and providing their perspectives. And we're adding new threats, and we're identifying gaps that can be filled. And we need the end users community, especially with this, to make this exactly what it needs to be for the consumer, for the end user. So jump on in, the water's warm. Every other Tuesday at 12. The last one was this Tuesday, so look for it in a couple of weeks. I can't remember what day of the week that is, and I want to say it's not the 4th or the 5th. I can't.
It's on the calendar though.
Yeah, it's on the calendar. So take a look at the public calendar. You'll see it there. Like I said, come on in. The water's warm. Love to have you.
And the quick question was 12 in which time zone?
12 Pacific time zone. So 12 Pacific, 3 Eastern. And then of course, anywhere else in the world, I don't have the time zone map in front of me. So if you go from there will be.
Okay, cool. Yes, definitely. I think S2C2F is a good place for folks to be involved, given its sort of consumer focus. Makes a lot of sense for end users to be involved. Was there any other business that folks would like to discuss? If not, I can give you back 15 minutes, 16 technically. I know, it's pretty exciting. All right. Okay, folks, thank you very much for coming today. I think it was a great session. We will see you all again in 2 weeks, except for those of you who are coming to TAC next week. And we'll talk to you then. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.